Wii Sports Resort versus Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. Which game provides the best sports game experience? Let's find out. Hey, what's up you guys, this is SGB618 here, and today I'm going to be putting Wii Sports Resort for the Wii up against Mario and Sonic Tokyo 2020 for the Switch to see which game is the best. I grew up with Wii Sports Resort and it's a really good follow up to the original Wii Sports game. I played a ton of Beijing and Winter games back in the day when I was little. However, I took a long break from this series up until this point. This is actually a pretty nice return to form for the series, and it's nice having nostalgia in HD. As always, this video is based entirely on my opinion and my opinion only, so please don't take offense if I say anything that you don't agree with. There is no right or wrong answer to this comparison video. But without further ado, let's just go straight into it. So both of these games are aimed at a casual audience. Both games are sports minigame collections. Both games heavily encourage and take advantage of motion controls, and both games are the latest entries in their series. Nintendo really needs to bring back Wii Sports. Even if they rename it to Switch Sports, that would just be great to have on the Switch. Anyway, the biggest difference between the two are the different types of sports. That's to be expected, as one is based on more holiday and common sports, excluding stuff like skydiving of course, because obviously I'm not jumping out of a plane once a week with my mates because I'm not a maniac, and the other game is based off of Olympic sports. Wait, really? I was about to get my garden games out. The type of stuff you'll see here in Mario and Sonic Tokyo 2020 are 100 meters, swimming, gymnastics, rowing, archery, stuff like that. But there are actually some sports on both Wii Sports Resort and Tokyo 2020 that are very similar. So playing these games back to back will help us see the different approaches they took towards the same area. Both games are very cool and flashy, but I definitely think that Tokyo 2020 definitely looks better. And no, I'm not talking about graphics, I'm talking more about art direction and even down to stuff like the menus. Yes, it's more hectic and crazy than Wii Sports Resort, but just look at how bright, fun and colourful this is. When I look at this game up front, it gives me the impression that there is a ton of fun and excitement to have here. Obviously I understand why Wii Sports Resort is a lot more simple and laid back, because that's kind of the whole point of the game and that's where it is at its core. A simple, laid back but fun experience. So if anything, this art style works really well and it works in the game's favour. It's just I prefer the art style of Tokyo 2020 a lot more. However, looks aren't everything. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Wii Sports and Resort are some of the most casual gamer friendly games out there, and because of that, these games are some of the easiest games to get used to. Even just looking at the sports that have been selected, a lot of these are holiday sports. Whether it's stuff to play with your friends at your local park like basketball, or if it's something that you're only doing if you're at a certain holiday resort, or if you're rich, stuff like wakeboarding. This definitely benefits Wii Sports Resort because of how relatable and laid back it is for their target audience. Keep in mind, the players who make up this target audience aren't hardcore gamers, and yet this is easy for them to understand. No wonder why this game did so well. Adding motion controls into the mix, and yeah, it's pretty obvious that this game was going to do well, and it's still really fun to play to this day. Tokyo 2020 of course is based on Olympic sports, which I think is really cool. I'm definitely not the only one who enjoys watching the Olympics. But the fact that the majority of these Olympic games aren't very accessible or relatable to most audience members in the real world, most of these games aren't going to be understood straight away, unlike Wii Sports, where one glance of the menu will make you feel right at home. Well, obviously for the most part. I'm not saying that it's bad that these sports are based on Olympic games. Like I said before, I think it's a really fun and cool idea. I just think that the sports selected for Wii Sports Resort definitely level with the casual players more, as they're more casual sports. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, sure, 100 meters, boxing and skateboarding are pretty fun, but I think that a huge reason for why I like those three the most out of all of the regular sports in the game is because of how simple and easy it is to play. The key phrase here is less is more, especially when you're after the same target demographic but taking a different approach. The biggest area where less is more is very important is in the controls. Again, especially when these two games are targeting a casual audience. Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games has been running as a franchise since 2008 up until this point, and yet they still don't understand simple controls. I definitely need to give Tokyo 2020 credit for having multiple control options for most games, something that Wii Sports Resort is lacking. However, if you just want to look at motion controls for both of these games, which from a casual player standpoint is far more natural and easy to understand, aside from 100 meters, hurdles, skateboarding, and maybe a few others, the controls require you to use button inputs whilst using motion controls. Yeah, I know Wii Sports Resort has some buttons that need to be pressed during gameplay, but it's really not that complicated. You hold a button down for pulling back an arrow in archery, press one button to pass to your teammates in basketball, or you release a button in bowling to throw the ball. Very easy to understand, very simple and very clear. I understand that Tokyo 2020 includes special moves and unrealistic elements to make the sports more flashy and exciting, which is cool, and it gives the game and the franchise a lot more recognition and uniqueness, especially when you actually play them. But if it makes the games more complicated and sometimes even strict to play overall, then they shouldn't be included at all. You're overcomplicating a simple concept, something that Wii Sports Resort didn't fall for. Here's another example. Wii Sports Resort has a wakeboarding game, and Tokyo 2020 has a surfing game. Both of these games require you to stunt and trick off waves of water. Let's look at this from a single remote standpoint. Tokyo 2020 requires you to physically turn your board around, flick the Joy-Con at pixel perfect timing, and oh yeah, don't forget you have to press an extra button if you want to do your super move when your super meter builds up. And oh yeah, you need to physically move your board again so you can make your way back to the wave. And then you need to balance on the board with some of the most sensitive controls I've ever used in the game. Why is this all necessary? Wow, so if Tokyo 2020's one plays like that, I can't imagine how bad Wii Sports Resort's controls are going to be like. So first off, the remote is sideways to increase the player's comfort levels instead of giving them carpal tunnel. Looks like we're already off to a great start if you ask me. Let's look at the actual controls. Tilt, flick, align. Tilt, flick, align. Tilt, flick, align. Okay. I fully understand that wakeboarding and surfing aren't exactly the same game, whether in real life or just looking at both of these two games. There are obviously some differences between these two, but let's be real, it is pretty much the exact same idea. Why is it so simple and natural in one game, and in the other game it makes you question everything? Your purchase, why you're playing with motion controls, literally everything. Okay, sure, the Joy-Con are too small to use on its side, I'll give you that. So the Switch is at somewhat of a disadvantage here. But at the very least they could have used the same controls as wakeboarding, just with the Joy-Cons upright. Now do you see what I mean? Okay, at the very least both games provide practice sessions, so I guess learning the controls for both of these games have been made a bit easier. I definitely appreciate that. This is often something that developers overlook. But one thing that was definitely overlooked by Tokyo 2020 are the length of the games. Why are all these games so short? I mean, Wii Sports Resort games don't last super long either, but it's still a decent amount of time. It's not so long that it kills your arms, hands and wrists, but it's not so short that you're left wanting more. Obviously some games are longer than others, I get that, but because the controls are so simple, you start replaying sports because you have the drive to do better and unlock harder challenges. Tokyo 2020 just crams a lot of control features in one sport in exchange for a shorter playtime for each sport event. I don't like that. Tokyo 2020 has really cool sports. I especially love the idea of retro themed sports. That is a very cool idea, and you guys know that I love retro themed stuff in general. But aside from a few exceptions, the overly complicated controls just to fit in forgettable special moves and flashy elements really kills the fun of the game for me, and it kills me physically too. I just feel like Wii Sports Resort did it better because it kept things so simple. I'm not saying that these games need to be easy to be good, I'm saying that great games need to have simple controls. Obviously it depends on the genre of game, but in this case, sporty motion control-y games are targeted at people who look down at their controller every few minutes to see where certain buttons are. You draw those types of people in if you make those controls simple so they'll get used to it quickly, and that's what Wii Sports Resort did so well. Tokyo 2020 isn't bad. I like how they included a story mode, retro mode, updated visuals, and just simply the fact that we're playing in the Olympics. I just think that's such a cool concept, especially with Mario and Sonic characters, two of my favourite video game franchises. But, like I said before, the core gameplay for the most part is just very overcomplicated, strict and sensitive, and even though there are some exceptions, most of these games are over so quickly that there's no point even if you do master and get used to them. The fact that Wii Sports Resort has more relatable and relaxing sports, second nature controls along with unlockable challenges, it's kind of no contest for me to go with Wii Sports Resort as the winner for this video. To me, it just does everything right as a casual sports game collection, and that sweet me channel charm that the game has will forever be remembered, and in this type of game genre, unrivaled. So sorry to Tokyo 2020 fans, but Wii Sports Resort defo wins this one for me. But anyway guys, that's going to be the end of today's video, so hopefully you did enjoy it. Please comment down below your thoughts on the points I made in this video. Did you agree with them, did you not? And let me know which game you prefer, I'll be very interested to know. Anyway, thank you for watching, please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.